Buongiorno a tutti, spero che vada tutto bene. Oggi vi parlo della differenza tra il verbo sapere e il verbo conoscere, ok? Allora, che cosa vogliono dire? Vogliono dire in inglese to know. So in English, it's a bit difficult sometimes to know whether to use the verb sapere or the verb conoscere when we want to explain our knowledge about something. Do I say so che bla bla bla, or conosco che bla bla bla? Difficile, no? Okay, so what I'll do today is I will go over the present tense conjugations of both verbs and try and pronounce them for you and give you some examples of when you might use them. So it won't give you every instance of when either or both verbs can be used, but it will give you a couple of pointers which might help you to choose between the two. Okay, so first things first, let's look at the conjugation of sapere. Let's try and get my chair in order here. So the first one is so. Then we have sai, and then we have sa. So, sai, sa. So, sai, sa. Io so, tu sai, lui, lei, sa. So if you're talking impersonally, like oh, everybody knows, or one knows, or it's known, then you would use the third person, si, sa, che. It is known that. Or non si sa. It's not known. Non si sa che. Si sa che. It's known that. Si sa che in Inghilterra si parla inglese. Si sa. People just know. It's known. So, so, sai, sa. Sappiamo, that means we know. Noi sappiamo. Voi sapete. Sapete. So with ERE verbs, the voi form always has ete in the ending. As you probably are aware by now, noi forms of verbs in any of the three types of verbs, ERE, IRE or ARE verbs, will end with iamo. Here we have a double P, so that's a little bit different from the stem of the verb in the infinitive form. And also this is irregular because normally you take a regular verb and you take the ending off, which leaves the stem or the root of the verb, and then you just add the normal endings like O, I, A if it's an ARE verb. But here you can see that there's no P, it doesn't start off SAP, until you get to these two. So that tells you that it is an irregular conjugation, okay? So, sai, sa, sappiamo, sapete, and the loro form, they know, sanno, sanno. Okay, so it's quite irregular to look at. When would you use the verb sapere? So if you're a member of my Italian club, later on today you'll be receiving this handout which gives you the conjugations, some examples of when each verb is used, and some links online where you can go and practice. So let's see. Okay, so sapere is used when you talk about a piece of information that is fact or certainty. Okay? Per esempio, so che I miei capelli sono lunghissimi. Okay, I know that my hair is very long. I know, I'm aware. Okay. I'm aware. It's a fact. It is very long, for example. So che hai mangiato la pizza. I know that you ate that pizza. Like, I know it, it's a fact. Here's a good one. This is a question form in the to form, so a familiar question. Sai che piove? Sai che piove? Sì, lo so. Sì, l'ho visto. Io so che adesso piove. I'm asking, sai, you write the question in, sai che piove? Do you know, or you know that it is raining? Sai che piove? And then I said, sì, lo so. Lo so. I know. So that lo pronoun refers to il fatto che piove, the fact that it's raining. Lo so. I know that it is raining. So instead of repeating that it is raining, I can just say lo so. Sì, lo so. And you can use it with yes. Sì, lo so. If you don't know it's raining, or you didn't know it was raining, you could say I didn't know it was raining. Non sapevo. Non lo sapevo. So there I'm using it in a slightly different tense, which is the imperfect tense. Let's think of an example when you could say non lo so. Oh, here's another question. So, for example, sai a che ora comincia la lezione? Sai a che ora comincia la lezione? Mi dispiace, ma non lo so. Non lo so. I don't know. So the negative could be, or would be, non lo so. Now that lo bit there refers to whatever has been asked of you. So I don't know when the lesson starts, for example. You can also just answer without the lo. Non so. I don't know. But it's very common to hear lo with the verb sapere, okay? Sì, lo so. No, non lo so. I don't know it. I know it. Whatever's been said before. So, sai che piove, or sai a che ora parte il treno? Do you know at what time the train leaves? Sai quando torna a casa Martino? Do you know when Martin's coming back home? Those examples have the verb sapere followed by a subordinate clause. So often they'll have something like, in English, do you know when something is happening? Do you know why? Do you know if? Do you know who? Do you know what? Do you know which? So they're kind of, they're question words, a lot of them. When, where, if, why, with whom, at what time, that kind of thing. So if you're either asking a question of someone, do you know when, do you know what, do you know who, you would use the verb sapere. So sai quando, sai dove, sai chi, sai a che ora, sai quando, sai quale, sai quanto, etc. Okay, so sapere is used with when it's directly followed. So you conjugate the verb and then you directly follow it with a question form. So that question part is like a subordinate clause. It's something that the verb depends upon in order for the question to, or the sentence to be understood fully. Okay, so, sai, sa, sappiamo, sapete, sano. Let's see if I have any other examples. Okay, so the example I have, I think I've already mentioned, but slightly different. It's in the, it's in the io form. Bambini, so children, kids. So che avete mangiato la pizza. Lo so, è un fatto, è un'informazione. So it's a fact. I know that you have eaten the pizza. Okay, so che avete mangiato la pizza. Lo so. Okay, let's look at another example of when you use sapere. So, yeah, okay, so it's followed by subordinate clauses. So let's have a look at one of these. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a question that you're asking, you can just make a statement. So the statement, remember, can be in the affirmative or the negative. So the verb functions in the same way whether it's got non in front of the conjugated verb or not. So here's one in the negative. Non so dove è andata Cristina. Io non so dove è andata. I don't know where Christina went. Non so. Let's see if I can put it here. Non so dove andata. I don't know where she went. Non so dove è andata. I don't know where. Now remember that the word for where, dove, ends with an E. So when it's followed by è andato or è andata, he or she went, then you can hear it, you can see it contracted, and it might just sound like dove, okay? Non so dove è andata. Non so dove è andato. So I don't know where he or she went. Okay, here's another one in the negative. Sara non sa se verrà alla festa. Lei non sa se verrà. She doesn't know whether she is coming or will come to the party. She doesn't know. So she doesn't know if. I don't know where. He doesn't know who. You don't know why something. Any of those that are sort of followed by question words or a subordinate clause similarly to those examples, that's going to be the verb sapere. Okay? Now, an important one, let's see if I've got somewhere to write some examples. So, another use of the verb sapere is when it's followed by an infinitive verb. So that has a slightly different meaning. That means you know how to do something. So, sapere, I know how to sing, right? I can sing, if you like. So cantare. I can sing. Or I know how to do something. I have the ability or the capacity of doing something. Non so guidare. I don't know how to drive. It's not true, but you know, it could be. Non so guidare. So you've got the verb sapere conjugated, followed by an infinitive verb. That means you know how to do something. Or if it's in a negative with a non in front of the conjugated verb sapere, and then it's followed by an infinitive verb, it means you don't know how to do something or you're not able to do something. Per esempio, io non so sciare. I find it very difficult, è molto difficile. Non so sciare. I don't know how to ski. I've tried, ma è difficilissimo. Okay, let's think of some other examples. Here's some. Well, here's one. Sì. Giuseppe sa guidare. Sa guidare, sì. Ma non ha un'automobile. Non ha un'automobile, ma Giuseppe sa guidare. Giuseppe knows how to drive, but he doesn't have a car, or he doesn't have a vehicle. Okay, sa guidare. So that one was in the third person. Sa, he or she knows, plus the verb in the infinitive. He or she knows how to drive. And obviously you can put the name of a person, I don't know, like Marta, or Giuseppe. So when I'm conjugating these verbs, you don't have to use the personal pronoun. For example, I don't have to say io so cantare. I can just use the conjugated verb so, followed by the infinitive. However, if you're emphasizing, for example, they don't know how to sing, but I do, okay? Loro non sanno cantare, ma io sì, io so cantare. Then you can put io in, or loro, if you're kind of differentiating between or comparing to the extreme two sets of people. Okay, so sapere can be used when you're with a subordinate clause and with kind of question words, if you like. Do you know when? Do you know what? do you know who? I know who she is. I know what time it is. I know where I'm going, for example, those kind of things. And it's also used with infinitive verbs to explain that you have the ability to do something, you're able to do something, okay? You have a skill. So parlare l'italiano, per esempio, ma non so parlare lo spagnolo, okay? Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to hop back a page, I should say, on my flip chart, and we're going to have a look at the verb conoscere, which is slightly different. Obviously, it looks completely different. So, conoscere, another ERE verb, as it happens. So, this is similar. When you think about it, there's verbs like finire, which, when they're conjugated in the present tense, have this sk sound, like finisco, finisci, finisce. This is similar. I'm just going to take this thing off. There's enough stuff to bump into on this in this little corner. Conosco, io conosco. Conosci, conosci. Tu conosci. Lui, lei, conosce. So here we've got a hard SC sound becomes a sk. Conosco. Ma nella forma tu conosci. Okay, you get a similar thing in the verb capire. Capisco, capisci, capisce. So here, conosce. So these are soft sh kind of sound, and that's a sk. Conosco, conosci, conosce. Okay? Conosciamo, conoscete. Ma attenzione, perché conoscono. So whenever you have a C and an O, it's a ko sound. Put an S in front of it, sco. But C and an I, sorry, an S, C and an I is a sci, like in the verb sciare. Per esempio, io non so sciare. That's an S-C-I, so that's a soft sci. And then when you have S-C-E, S-C-E, it's a soft she. Conoscete. Okay? So these two are sort of the hard sounds. Now, the first thing that comes to mind, which is noted on here, is that conoscere is used with people. Okay, if you're familiar with someone, or if you're talking about knowing someone or people, then you'll always use the verb conoscere. Okay, so for example, io conosco Marta. La conosco bene. That's another thing to mention. If you're talking about I know him, I know her, I know them, right? So you're going to need to know the direct object pronouns. Let me put them down here. Lo and la, li and le. So let me give you an example. I think I used Marta. Yeah, okay. So, do you know Marta? Do you know? So if you're talking to, say, a friend of yours, an Italian friend, in the to form, this one, conosci Marta? Do you know Marta? I might say, for example, in response, sì, la conosco. Yes, I know her. So the la refers to Marta. So if you've seen my video from a couple of months back, you'll know that direct object pronouns can replace either a person or an object. And because the verb conoscere is followed directly by the object, like to know someone, or to know a place, or to know the music of Puccini, it's followed directly by the object. So hence la is a direct object pronoun, and it's the feminine singular. If this was Marco invece di Marta, scusa, punto interrogativo. So if that's a question, do you know Marco? Conosci Marco? Then la changes to la. Slightly different lo from non lo so, okay? Because lo in non lo so means I don't know it, whatever's been said before. But non lo or si lo conosco means I know him. So lo and la mean him and her, and you use them with conoscere because you use conoscere when you're talking about knowing a person. If you are talking about do you know those guys or these girls, for example, conosci quei ragazzi? Li conosci? Do you know them? Li conosci? Li conosci? Okay. No. Non li conosco. No, I don't know them. No. So the li here, and that's just L and I, not L with an accent over it. That means them. That group of guys or a mixed bunch of people like guys and girls. So similarly, if you were saying, do you know these girls or those girls? Conosci quelle ragazze? And you're saying, yes, I know them. Then li changes to le, okay? Because le is the direct object pronoun that refers to either a group of feminine nouns or a group of female people. So conoscere is used to talk about knowing people. Okay. It can also be used to mean that you're familiar with something, right? So you can substitute the translation in English. If you're not sure, you could see whether you can say in English, I am familiar with. For example, conosco il gruppo ABBA. Okay? Conosco la musica di Puccini. Conosco I libri di someone. I don't know. J.K. Rowling. Non conosco bene la storia, ma conosco le lingue. Okay, so you can talk about a topic or a subject area or the works of Shakespeare or a song or a podcast or a series or a film. You can talk about your knowledge of something. If you're familiar with the music of, I don't know, ABBA, the Rolling Stones, or Italian grammar, if you're familiar with those things, or maybe you've even studied them, then you can use the verb conoscere. So conoscere can be followed by the person's name or the pronoun that refers to the person, or it can be followed by a noun. Okay, so conosco la musica di Puccini. Conosco I libri di Shakespeare, per esempio. Okay, let's look at some other examples. Oh yeah, of course. So conoscere can also be used to describe your knowledge of a place. I think I might have mentioned that. So here's an example. Conosco bene Parigi, ma non conosco molto bene Roma. Conosco Londra, ma non conosco Milano. Okay, so you can think of it as meaning to be familiar with or to know very well when you're talking about a place. So you don't use conoscere plus an infinitive verb. Conosco parlare, no. Conosco cantare, no. You would use, if you want to say I know how to sing, I know how to dance, I know how to speak French, for example, you need to use the verb sapere. Okay, let's see, have we got another example? Okay, I kind of alluded to this. So you would also use conoscere when you're talking about knowledge or a skill, but knowledge that you've acquired through study or undertaking research. So if you studied, I don't know, geography, archaeology, art, Eastern European politics, for example. You can say lo conosco bene or la conosco bene perché l'ho studiato or l'ho studiata, depending on what you're talking about, because you've studied it or because you've worked on and put time and effort into gaining knowledge about something. So there are also a few examples of when you can use conoscere and sapere kind of interchangeably, but I don't want to mention those here yet because I don't want to confuse the issue. This is just skimming the surface of when you use conoscere and sapere, but let's just go over some of the things I've mentioned already. So sapere is used when you're talking about having the know-how for something, knowing how to do something. So cucinare, non so nuotare, don't know how to swim, ma so leggere la musica, read music. You can use sapere when you're talking about a fact or a certainty. So che ti piace la musica. And you can use it when you're asking a question that's followed by like a question word, or if you're using a subordinate clause. So for example, sai a che ora comincia la lezione? Sai dove è andato Andrea? Sai che piove? And you can answer those kind of questions with sì, lo so, yes, I know, or I know it. Or in the negative, non so, or commonly, non lo so, I don't know it. And then conoscere you use in particular when you're talking about people that you know. So you would always say you'd always ask if you know someone with conoscere. Conosci Mirella? Sì, la conosco. Conosci Sergio? Non lo conosco. And you need to remember that when you're using conoscere to talk about knowing people, if you then want to say I know him or her or them, you need to use the direct object pronouns with them. So lo conosco, I know him. Direct object pronouns go before the conjugated verb generally, okay? Also, conoscere is used to talk about a subject or an area that you have studied, something, a profound knowledge, a deep knowledge of something. And it's used when you want to say that you're familiar with something, like a place or a song or a book or a TV series, for example. So I hope that helps, and I've included on my handout for this club, my Italian club for this month, I've included a link to this video which you can just click on and it will open in a browser. And I've also included a link where you can go online and practice a few exercises where you choose between conoscere and sapere, so hopefully that will help solidify your understanding. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments underneath. Feel free to email me or give me a call. And please feel free to like this video if you found the content useful, subscribe, share the video around, and I look forward to the next time. Grazie mille. Alla prossima volta. Ciao!